Right, welcome to Fishing Squad. Just putting a bit of a video together that might help people when they're tying their own tope rigs up. So we're just going to discuss bite ends, and I'm going to show you how to make two variations that are used quite a lot. They're used, the main two that are used basically. So we'll crack on with the video and let's get to it basically. Enjoy. So for the pennel bite end, I'd use two strongish hooks, thick gauged. A lot of people don't. They buy the specimen hooks that snap and bend. Each to their own though. So you want one for the bottom of the pennel that'll fit into the splashdown if you're using a pulley rig. Then you want a back hook as well with a turn down eye ideally. I'll explain why as we go. You want a power swivel, a couple of double crimps, a bead, two sleeves, well, a couple of bits of heat shrink, and obviously you want a length of wire cut to 18 inches, which we'll do now, and I'll show you as we go. Right, so we're going to do two, as I've said. We've got one. We're doing the pennel one now, so we're going to pull off. This is VMC wire. It's not bad, it's good price as well. I get for 15 quid. I've got 15 meters. That's not bad at all. So we're just going to measure off 18 inches of wire and snip it. So you need some snips as well, obviously. So we'll snip 18 inches of wire. That's there. And all we're going to do is we're going to get the bottom hook, which is in this case a 600 O'Shaughnessy. We're going to feed it through like that. We're going to pass the wire over, tag end over the wire, like that, and we're going to go through once. This is to form the Flemish eye. Go through once. So you've just basically done an overhand knot to tie the hook in place, if you like. It's hold the hook in place. Now you've done that, you want to get your tag end and go back through the eye of the hook. It can be fiddly. So basically, what you don't want to do is to make the Flemish eye and then try and cinch it down when it's in the locking position, if you like. So I've done that now. I'll show you again. So all we've done is we've fed a O'Shaughnessy hook onto our wire. Probably let out about 4 inch of wire there. Let's have a look what we got. Just over 3 inch of wire we've pulled through. Just enough to comfortably make an overhand knot basically. So you've made an overhand knot. Basically pull it down a bit. Then you want to go through the tag end, back through with this tag end, back through the eye of the hook. So you just use an overhand knot to tie the hook on to press. Then you're going back through the eye of the hook with the tag end. So now the wire's through the eye of the hook. It's gone through twice. So you should end up with something that looks like that. So then what you want to do is, with the tag end, you want to go on your side, as you're looking at it now, you want to feed it back through this eye here, and that's what forms the Flemish eye. But what you can do is just cinch it down just a little bit. Got the barb in my finger. Not the barb, the barb. Just catching my finger. So you want to just flick it back through. Sometimes I have to just use a bit of your teeth or whatever. Let's just flick through. And just hold everything steady. And just watch it. Leave a bit of tag end. You want to leave a couple of inches tag end out. And you should be able to just pull it. And it'll cinch down. Just push it along a bit with your fingers here. Then one pull of the tag end. If you use pliers or teeth, don't use your teeth really. And that's that. That's done. You could give it a little test if you want, but I'd rather not because it can kink wire and stuff if you start over pulling stuff. And I know that'll lock. That'll lock. Let's give it an hand pull. That'll do. And what you want to do, so you form the Flemish eye. What you want to do now, you form the Flemish eye, is get your double crimp, which is here, and slide it down the wire. You use single crimps for this as well. I just prefer to use a double crimp, and I'll show you why in a minute. So you push it all the way down. So it's buttered up to the Flemish eye. Just give everything a little pull, just to make sure that nothing's... But the tag end sometimes has got a bad habit of pulling back through, you know, when you're moving stuff about, like sliding crimps on and stuff. So make sure the tag end's tight, you know, the knot's tight on the tag end side. So you've got that. And I like these type of old school crimpers for the double crimps. And I like using the second notch down, the middle notch. And all I do is, these aren't tough crimps, they're just soft ones, really, for just holding the tag end in. All I do, just give it 1, 2. Sometimes a crimp spin. This one's spun, it doesn't really matter. 3. I just give it 3 all the way down. So it's done. I'll give it I might give that one more because it is banked up a bit there. If you're using tough crimps, you want to just be leaving the banked up side. You want to be doing the middle 2 bits of them so you can leave the edges banked up. With these finer crimps that are soft, they're not going to damage the wire too much, so the sound, just to keep everything neat, cinch them down all the way along. So then we've got the tag end, snip the tag end off, and we're left with that. Get a piece of shrink tube, heat shrink, just measure out how much you think you'd need approximately just to cover the crimp up and the tag end. So I've got about 1 centimetre and a bit. Snip it with some scissors or your snips. Slide it down. There's quite a few variations, but there isn't much published online about making bite ends for taupe. So we've just got that. We've got a igniter thing here. Let's give it a bit of flame. So that's that. I like to put a bead on now as a buffer, but also I reckon it swings the hook a bit. I've tried it with a few fish, and I reckon it swings the hook a bit if you do hook on the back hook. So I've slid a bead, So I've slid a bead on. You can use any bead really. I think that's about a 6 mil bead that. But you can go smaller, you can go 4. And this is a Sakuma Kong hook that I've turned the back eye down. I like turning the back eye down. I'll tell you why in a minute. And look how I slide it down. I slide it down the eye that side, like that. Some people don't turn eyes down and they slide them on that way. But I think it was proven that when the hook slid down that way, I'm not saying people have lost fish because of it, but they could have done. When they've wrapped round the wire, I think when you pull it, if you pull it through, pull the wire really aggressively, it flicks the hook that way as if it had pulled the fish off the hook. It's just something that I've seen somewhere. I've never experienced it myself, but I like having my back hook. This is, like I say, it's a Sakuma Kong hook. It's a 6.0, very strong. Probably the strongest hook I use this, other than the circles when I've used circles. So I slide that down like that. There's a lot of variations you could do now with that. You've got that on. You could put some form of stopper here, slide a piece of rubber to hold the back hooking when you've baited up. You could come further up with your tag end and make a little bit of a doubled over wire section for the bite bit where you bait up, out around the end of it. There's a few variations, but I prefer just doing this, keeping it simple as it is, no drama. It's a bit more, you can just have a bit more variation to your bait. You could possibly put a crimp on the wire if you want, just a soft crimp, lightly crimped on, like a rig body crimp, what you use for flapper rigs or something if it'll slide down the wire. There's loads of things you can do. You could just lightly nick a crimp on maybe, and you might be adjustable enough to, well, you've got to bear in mind the width of your eye on your hook as well, on your back hook, before you put anything that's a stopper on, obviously, as well, because you don't want it just to come straight over the top of it. But there's a few things you could try. You might be able to try some power gum on it or something like that. There's just I just leave it basically. I like to just get plenty of bait elastic around there so it holds it in. You can use that bead as a bit of a thing as well for the bait elastic to bite on, to hold everything in place. But I think the bead, if you got a fish on it, watch what the bottom hook does. It just slightly lifts out of the way. Can you see that? It doesn't do that when you don't have a bead on it. So if you do hook one on the back hook, it does flick the back hook, the front hook, the bottom hook, slightly out of the way. there's got to be something in it. So right, so that's what we've got. We've got a 6-0 O'Shaughnessy, thick hook, which is a thick hook to clip into the splashdown. We've got a Flemish eye that's crimped with some heat shrink, a bead. We've got a 6-0 Kong hook with the eye turned down. And I'll explain why I like the bait to be how it is, with the hook that way in a minute. When we finish the rig, I'll mention that. Then what we're going to do now is we're going to put a full length of heat shrink, about 2.5 inches long, that is. I think we're going to use that little bit as well. We'll slide that little bit because we don't know how long this is going to end up. You usually end up with a bite end that's about 12 inches long, which is sound, maybe a little bit shorter, a little bit longer. It can be a bit difficult to get the exact measurement, obviously, because you're dealing with wire, and you've got to. It just depends how much you pull through, how careful you are when you cinch it down. But you'll end up with a bite end when you've done this that's plenty long enough or short enough, whatever, that's sound. So I've fed them 2 bits of heat shrink down, double crimp. Then we've got the power swivel, and we're doing the same again, like we did with the bottom hook. We're going to go through, do an overhand knot, cinch it down a little bit, pull about 2 inch through maybe. Then we're going to go back through the swivel. What I found is if you just do the overhand knot, I'll show you. What I found is, if you just do the one overhand knot and then cinch it down a bit, it don't tend to keep the wire. Whereas if you try and do the full Flemish loop, because you can if you want to, I'll just do it anyway. But you can do an overhand knot. So I've tied that on with an overhand knot, yeah? This is basically, it'll just show you how the knot works. But I've only gone through once, but then if you whip that tag end round and go through again, that's the Flemish eye. But then all you're doing to complete it is you're feeding the tag end through the swivel, the eye on the swivel. So that's there. But what I found is when you cinch that down, it can kink the wire a bit. So I like to just do one, feed it down a bit, and then whip it back round. Feed it down, whip the tag end through the swivel, so it's only done a overhand knot, and then go through again to complete it. But I basically completed it and then fed the tag end through the swivel on this end, just as a demonstration. Then what I do is you cinch that down, but it's not as easy to cinch down because obviously you've gone through twice. And again, don't use your teeth. It does still do it, but it can kink up. So we've left the tag end on that of, again, 2 inches. Then what we're going to do with this is a very good trick for not getting your wire tangled around your main line, or around your main line basically. When you on your shock leader where your rig's tied on. Just give it a little pop. Basically, then twist the wire twist the tag end around the main body of the bite end. So you end up with something like that. And that's like a bit of a boom then, that kicks it out and stops it coming around your main line. That's what I've found. So get the double crimp. It's just got stuck in my silicone tubing. Feed it up onto there. Get these crimpers. Second notch down. 1, 2, 3. We're not swinging on them crimps. They're just purposely there to hold the tag end in. But you can see, can't you, how it's hanging straight. You can see up down to the swivel, it's hanging straight. It's been doubled over. Right, heat shrink up to the Flemish loop. Bit of flame. Bring your second one up. Plenty of heat shrink on these bite ends. It does help with kinking and keeping everything straight. This is 130. I don't know if I said that. I think this is £130 wire, and that's it finished. It's as easy as that. That's your finished bite end. So yeah, I like having my hooks that side because when I'm baiting up, I'm trying not. I'm having that hook straight in the bait, so the mackerel will be under there. See, and then you bring your next hook down, and I want the back hook positioned the same. I'm not nicking the back hook into the bait as such, unless it's the tail section. What I don't like doing is getting a lot of fit bait in that gap there, because I think it can hinder hooking up. You see people whipping the wire around a lot and nicking it in the bait, but more than nicking it in the bait, and it's like filling this gap up here. You don't want to be masking the points and stuff. You want both your hooks sitting proud in the bait, basically. So that's the explanation as to why the hooks are set like that. It definitely works. Definitely works. You won't go wrong with that as a basic bite end, pennel rig bite end. I mean, some people. I've got an example of a circle one I'm going to show you. We'll show you that, and then we'll do a bit of a conclusion. That's strong as out. You'd have to hook something massive for that to let you down. You know, I'm talking porgy, blue shark. Even then, you might be all right. So right, so for this one, we've got a circle hook, a 10-0 circle hook, which is a 10-0 Kyoki circle. You can use a turn down eye on this. It probably helps the knots sit on better on the wire. We've got a power swivel, a single double crimp, a length of heat shrink. Then we're going to cut 22 inches of wire. So we have to cut 22 inches of wire purely because it's a longer. We need to use a bit more wire for the knotless knot that we're going to tie. Well, we're snelling the hook on. That's why we're only using one crimp as well. So you get your circle hook. If you do carp fishing, you should be an expert at doing this. It's a bit different in sea fishing to carp, obviously, because you're using wire. I like to make sure it's something that I've done from carp fishing. You know where the hook's been forged and the loop goes around and there's a break there. Try and keep it towards you, because you want your first few wraps to wrap on that side rather than wrapping on there. What they say is, I don't think it'd happen with wire, but it's just force of habit. If you're using mono, definitely, it's got to be a sharp edge on that, and it could potentially weaken mono. Obviously, if you're using carp, if you're carp fishing, it's braid. So we're going to feed through a length like that. We're using plenty of wire here because you want to be getting this knot spot on. So we're coming through from the inside of the hook, and then we're going to wrap around the back, around the eye of the hook. If you can. It's a fiddly one. Once you start wrapping, it's not too bad though. It's a very fiddly. Truthfully, I'd start off with trying the pennels for Tope if you're making your own rigs. I fell a bit out of love with dongles because I've lost a couple of fish not hooking up. I don't know if I've said them right. Now I've come up this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've come up about 10 times, and then I'm going round it once, and then back out, but back out on the outside of the hook. Back in on the outside of the hook, back through there on the outside of the hook. It might not be the best of demonstrations, this one, because it is quite difficult to do. So get something on that now. I'm going to go get something on that to pull it down. Right, so I've got something here just to give it a bit of a cinch up. So you can see, obviously that's now. So you can get the more suppler wire you use, the easier it is to do. This is quite tough wire. But if you get something that's like 49 strand, it will cinch up even better. But if you get it like that, and it's got a coating on it like this, you can just give it a bit of heat, and the coating melts, it fuses it all together. You know, if you're worried about it slipping. So let's give that a leave a bit of a tag end. Then on to the next bit. Feed you. So that's snelled on. That's a snell knot-ish. Some people might have a couple of different variations of it. That's basically what a snell knot is. So next end of it, and at the other end of the bite end, we feed down some heat shrink, double crimp. Show you again the Flemish eye. Just overhand knot it on like that. We'll go through it again twice just so you can see how the Flemish eye is formed. Show you again. Thread the swivel onto my aim line. Go through once, pull, go through twice. Feed the swivel, feed the tag end through the swivel, and she's on. Cinch it down gently with your fingers, teeth, elite pliers. As far as I've got any teeth left. Tighten her up. Make sure that tag end don't pull back on itself. Again, wrap the tag end around the main body of the wire. The tighter you can do this, the better. Double crimp up onto there. I've got off using dongles basically, but I know there's a big craze of them. Right, grips, second notch in. If you hold the crimps steady, it does work better actually when you crimp it. I go over it 3 times ish. That's there. Heat shrink straight up onto there. It does take a lot of time, a lot of practice to get to like this to be able to knock bite ends out like this. It really does. Can take a lot of practice, even just doing the Flemish eye, but hopefully it'll give you some inclination. So that'd be my circle set up, and I've run a dongle onto the end of there for baiting up and stuff. But at the minute, I've been having a lot of success with pennels. I've never deep up to Tope either, so it's just up to yourselves what you'd rather use. Obviously, if you're fishing rough ground, there's 2 hooks there that could potentially cause more of a snagging issue. You can get even tighter circles than that and fish a single circle. It definitely does work on rough ground as far as losing gear. But the last 3 runs I've had on dongles, I've lost them, so I'm probably just need to have a bit more time when there's a few more fish about to just, just practice a bit more, adjust things that need to be adjusted. But I've never actually, I've tied that snell knot. That's probably I've probably only tied that knot half a dozen times in wire. But if you have a more supple wire, it knits on lovely. Honestly, it really does. But they're 2 really good bite ends. Obviously, we've got a reason now to use a dongle, so we'll use a dongle. So we'll try a dongle out. We'll make a rig up with that as well. So we're doing some prep. So we'll try a dongle this weekend probably as well. At some point, maybe we will see. So that's 2 bite ends. I hope it's a bit of use to some people. It might not be. They both work. They'll both work. I've caught Tope on dongles as well. So yeah, bang on. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it's some use to some people. Cheers. Back out very soon, by the way.